Well, hello, church family. Just wanted to give you some talking points for Life Group on this Sunday. So, the message that we have gone through on Sunday will be the King in plain clothes. And it is really a very broad, very large overview of that, what we call mediatorial office of Christ, where he intercedes for us as prophet, as priest, but also as king. And we talked about the Christ that was to come, and that was the Christ who is ruler over all of nature and all of creation. In fact, was there at creation, but especially in Genesis 3:15, was then articulated by God to be the one who would rule, reign over the serpent, over evil, over death, in that sense, by crushing the head of the serpent eventually, which he did when he came and then rose from the dead. And we see that office of kingship from the very earliest of days. We especially saw it in Psalm 110, which Peter later used in his sermon at Pentecost, related to David speaking to another Lord, to speak about the person of Christ. And we also have in that same chapter of Psalm 110 the reference to Melchizedek, which refers to the prince or king of Shalom, which was actually Jerusalem back in the day. But he also acted as a priest by God's design. And of course, that name is mentioned in Hebrews, related to Christ's type of kingship and priesthood with his people. Now, a lot of this moves from the kingly line that relates to David, and we see that in 2 Samuel 7. We saw it in chapter 22. We also hear, even in the Psalms, about David's throne enduring forever, living forever. And we see that at the beginning of Matthew chapter 1, the begats that really lead up to this kingly line of David, culminating with this declaration of 14 generations passing, so that we see that connection with Christ as actual king of his people. Then later on, even when Christ is in a position of where he is starting his public ministry, and his first real sermon or preaching was to repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. And then later in Luke, he speaks about his kingdom not being of this world. If it was, then his people would be fighting in this kingdom, but they're not. That's not what it's about. It's about redemption and adopting subjects into that kingdom, which we are all subjects by adoption only. But as adopted children, we're not just subjects, we are heirs. And so it's just incredible, his kingship and his rule over us. Of course, in Philippians 2, you see this connection of his being in plain clothes, so to speak, coming in the form of a servant, in the form of humanity. And again, this very unassuming, as Isaiah 53 would speak of, this kind of non-power figurehead that could easily be overlooked. And yet this is Christ the King, and he came and did exactly what God designed for him to do, perfectly so. But we also know that Christ will come back, and he continues to live and be king. He rules and reigns, and one day our faith will give way to sight. And even as Romans 8 speaks of, our adoption will be fully realized when we're given new bodies, new flesh, and we will be in his presence. And therefore, faith will no longer be needed. Our adoption will be fully realized at that time, and that is what we long for the deepest as children of God. So it's powerful. And then Revelation 19 actually speaks of the name of him being King of Kings, Lord of Lords, even in a sense tattooed on his thigh, that this is Christ's rulership. And when he comes back, he's not coming back to provide for more sons and daughters to come in, because he's already done that. He will come to judge the living and the dead. And in doing so, the kingdoms are then rightly divided by his standard, because he is the only standard. And so with that, I just want to encourage you this week to discuss, where are you living, as an adopted son or daughter? Where are you living in such a way that you are acknowledging his kingship? You're living out the fact that he rules over you. What are some areas that you could work on that you want to still hold on to for yourself, and in a sense kind of control, and some things that we can pray for each other about to basically loosen our grip, realizing that it's really no grip at all. And we just need to press into the kingdom that is not of this world, while we wait patiently for that kingdom, to be very much busy about the gospel and sharing our faith, that Christ is the only one that can bring redemption, that can adopt us into his kingdom, and otherwise there's no hope for us. We'll just remain in that kingdom of darkness, which he can transfer us out of through his blood. So I hope those, that reflection kind of helps, and maybe it can lead you to some good discussion and prayer tonight. Because practically speaking, we need to do, in a sense, a more affectionate job of leaning into his rule in our lives, his kingship. And that's really done by trusting what he has outlined for us in his word, and by not living under the control or rule of any sin or anything else that may have an appearance of rulership, but it's a lie. It doesn't rule. So I hope it's a blessing. I hope you have a great time in small group this week, in life groups, and God bless you and keep you. Until next time.